My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a marketing manager in Austin, Texas. 4 days ago, I sold the worthless shed my dad left me for $2 million and found $4.5 million in gold bars hidden inside it. But before you think I'm lucky, let me tell you what my family did to me. My dad gave my brother a $3 million mansion, the family business, and all the property. And me? He gave me an old, broken shed in the middle of nowhere. Everyone laughed. They thought I got nothing, but when I opened that shed, everything changed. If you were in my place, what would you do? Leave a comment and keep watching to see how this story unfolded. It was 3 weeks after Dad's funeral. I flew in from Austin to our hometown in Colorado. My heart was heavy, but there was also a small hope inside me. Maybe this time Dad had remembered me. Maybe he'd finally seen all the hard work I put into building my life without asking anyone for help. The lawyer's office felt cold. Dark wood furniture, tall bookshelves, and that smell of old paper and coffee. I sat in a leather chair that was too big for me, feeling small and alone. My mom sat across from me, her eyes red from crying but somehow distant. My brother Marcus sat next to her, looking confident. He wore an expensive suit and kept checking his phone like he had more important places to be. His wife Jessica sat beside him, her diamond ring catching the light every time she moved her hand. She smiled at me, but it wasn't a real smile. It was the kind of smile that says, "I'm better than you." Mr. Peterson, our family lawyer, cleared his throat. He was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. He'd known our family for 30 years. "Thank you all for coming," he said softly. "I know this is difficult, but we need to go through Robert's will today." My mom dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Marcus leaned back in his chair, already looking bored. Mr. Peterson opened a thick folder and pulled out the will. My hands were shaking in my lap. I tried to steady my breathing. "To my son Marcus, Mr." Peterson read, "I leave the family mansion on Riverside Drive, valued at $3 million. I also leave him my business shares, the downtown properties, and the investment accounts." Marcus nodded like he'd expected it. Jessica squeezed his hand, her smile growing wider. My heart sank. I'd always known Marcus was the favorite, but hearing it out loud still hurt. "And to my daughter, Sarah," Mr. Peterson continued, his voice gentler now, "I leave the old property on Mountain Ridge Road." There was silence. Then Jessica giggled. Actually giggled. "Wait," Marcus said, sitting up straight. "You mean that old shed? The one that's falling apart in the woods?" Mr. Peterson nodded. "Yes, that property." Jessica couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst out laughing. "Oh my God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. That's awful." My mom looked away, saying nothing. Not defending me. Not telling Jessica to stop. Nothing. Marcus shook his head. "Dad really did you dirty, sis. That place is worthless. There's nothing out there but trees and broken wood." My face burned with shame and anger. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask why. Why did Dad hate me so much? What did I do wrong? But I just sat there, frozen, while my brother and his wife laughed at my inheritance. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat again, louder this time. "There's also a letter," he said, looking at me. "Your father left this for you, Sarah." He handed me a sealed envelope. My name was written on it in Dad's shaky handwriting. Marcus snorted, "Probably an apology for giving you garbage." I took the envelope with trembling hands. I wanted to open it right there, but not in front of them, not while they were still laughing at me. "Is that everything?" my mom asked, standing up. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "Yes, Mrs. Mitchell," Mr. Peterson said. "The mansion transfer will take a few weeks, but Marcus can move in any time." Jessica was already on her phone, probably texting her friends about their new mansion. Marcus was shaking Mr. Peterson's hand, talking about business partnerships and investment opportunities. Nobody looked at me. Nobody asked if I was okay. I stood up, clutching the envelope to my chest. "I need some air," I whispered. Mr. Peterson gave me a sad smile. "Sarah, if you need anything." "I'm fine," I lied. I wasn't fine. I felt like my chest was caving in. I walked out of that office with my head down, tears blurring my vision. Behind me, I could hear Jessica's laugh echoing down the hallway. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and stared at the envelope. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. Finally, I tore it open. Inside was a single piece of paper with Dad's handwriting. "Sarah, you've always been the strong one. You never needed my money to prove your worth. This shed isn't what it seems. Trust me one last time. The key is in the place where we used to watch the stars. I love you more than you know. Dad." I read it 3 times, trying to understand. The place where we used to watch the stars? That was our old backyard, by the oak tree. We'd sit there when I was little, before Marcus was born, before everything changed. What did he mean the shed isn't what it seems? A tiny spark of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe Dad hadn't forgotten me after all. That evening, Mom insisted we all have dinner together at the mansion. One last family meal in the house, she said, but it felt more like a celebration for Marcus and torture for me. The dining room was huge, with a crystal chandelier and a table that could seat 12 people. Everything was expensive and perfect, just like Marcus's life. Jessica kept talking about renovation plans. "We're going to knock down this wall and put in a modern kitchen, maybe add a pool in the back." Marcus nodded along, scrolling through contractor websites on his tablet. Mom sat at the head of the table, picking at her food and saying nothing. I tried to eat, but every bite felt like swallowing rocks. The letter was still in my purse, burning a hole in my thoughts. "So, Sarah," Jessica said sweetly, "what are you going to do with your shed? Burn it down for the insurance money?" She laughed at her own joke. Marcus smirked. "I haven't decided yet," I said quietly. "You should just sell the land," Marcus suggested. "Might get a few thousand for it. Better than nothing." "Maybe," I said, not looking at him. "Oh, come on, don't be sad," Jessica said, reaching across the table like she cared. "At least you got something. Some people get nothing." I wanted to throw my plate at her. Instead, I stood up. "I'm tired. I'm going to head home." "Already?" Mom said, barely glancing at me. "We haven't even had dessert." "I'm not hungry," I said. Nobody tried to stop me. I grabbed my purse and walked out, leaving behind the mansion, the laughter, and the family that never really wanted me anyway. I couldn't sleep that night. Dad's letter kept running through my mind. The key is in the place where we used to watch the stars. At midnight, I grabbed a flashlight and drove to our old house. Mom had sold it years ago, but I knew the new owners. They were an elderly couple who kept to themselves. I parked down the street and quietly walked into the backyard. The oak tree was still there, old and massive, its branches reaching up into the dark sky. I shined my flashlight on the trunk. Dad had carved our initials there when I was 7, RM plus SM inside a heart, Robert and Sarah Mitchell. I ran my fingers over the carving. Then I noticed something. The bark around the heart looked different, newer. I pulled out my pocket knife and carefully dug around the edges. A small piece of bark came loose, and behind it was a tiny hole. Inside the hole was a key, old and rusty but still solid. My heart pounded. This was it. This was what Dad meant. I held the key up in the moonlight. It was small, the kind that might fit a padlock or a box. "Thank you, Dad," I whispered into the darkness. The next morning I packed a bag and drove to Mountain Ridge Road. It was time to see what Dad really left me. Mountain Ridge Road wasn't really a road. It was more like a dirt path that wound through thick forest. My car bumped and rattled over rocks and fallen branches. I'd only been here once before, when I was 10. Dad had brought me to show me the land. "This is special, Sarah," he'd said. "Someday you'll understand why." I didn't understand then. And I didn't understand at the funeral why he'd left it to me. But now, with the key in my pocket and his letter in my bag, I was starting to wonder if there was more to this place than everyone thought. After 20 minutes of driving through trees, I finally saw it. The shed. It looked worse than I remembered. The wood was gray and rotting in places. The roof sagged in the middle. Tall grass and weeds grew all around it, almost hiding it completely. I parked and got out. The air smelled like pine and earth. Birds chirped somewhere above me. It was peaceful, quiet, the kind of quiet you never get in the city. I walked slowly toward the shed, my heart racing. The door hung crooked on rusty hinges. There was a padlock on it, old and covered in rust. I pulled out the key. My hands were shaking again. "Please let this mean something," I whispered. I slid the key into the padlock. It was stiff, but after a few seconds it turned. The lock popped open. I pulled the door open. It creaked loudly, like it hadn't been opened in years, probably because it hadn't. Inside was darkness. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The shed was bigger inside than it looked from outside. Boxes were stacked against the walls. Old tools hung from rusty nails. Spider webs covered everything. I stepped inside carefully, my shoes crunching on dirt and dead leaves. In the corner, I saw something covered with a tarp. It was big, about the size of a car. I walked over and pulled the tarp off. Dust flew everywhere, making me cough. Underneath was a large wooden crate. It looked old but sturdy. There was another padlock on it, smaller than the first. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I tried the same key. It didn't fit. "Come on," I muttered. There had to be another key somewhere. I searched the shed, moving boxes and looking under tools. Nothing. Then I remembered Dad's letter. "Trust me one last time." I looked at the crate again. On the side, carved into the wood, were initials. RM plus SM. Just like the oak tree. I ran my fingers over the carving. Then I felt it. A small gap in the wood, hidden by the curve of the letters. I pressed on it. A tiny panel popped open. Inside was another key. "Oh my God," I breathed. I grabbed the key and unlocked the second padlock. It fell to the ground with a heavy thud. I lifted the lid of the crate. It was heavy, and I had to use both hands. When I finally got it open, I froze. Inside, wrapped in cloth, were bars. Gold bars. Rows and rows of them, stacked neatly, gleaming even in the dim light. I dropped to my knees, unable to breathe. My hands reached out, trembling, and touched one of the bars. It was cold, heavy, real. There were dozens of them, maybe more. Tears streamed down my face. Not sad tears, shocked tears, overwhelmed tears. Dad hadn't forgotten me. He hadn't left me nothing. He'd left me a fortune. I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at the gold. I couldn't process it. My mind kept racing with questions. How did Dad get this much gold? When did he hide it here? Why didn't he tell anyone? I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Then I started counting the bars. There were 87 of them. I Googled the current price of gold. Each bar weighed about 400 ounces. At current prices, that was roughly $50,000 per bar. I did the math. My hands shook as I typed numbers into my calculator. $4.35 million. $4.35 million. I dropped my phone. My legs gave out and I sat on the dirt floor, laughing and crying at the same time. This wasn't just a shed. This was my future, my freedom, my proof that Dad loved me. But I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not my family. If Marcus found out, he'd find a way to take it. He always did. I needed a plan. I took more pictures, then carefully covered the crate again with the tarp. I locked everything up and drove back to town, my mind spinning with possibilities. The first person I called was my best friend, Riley. We'd been friends since college, and she was the only person I trusted completely. "Riley, I need to see you. Now. It's important." "What happened? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Better than fine. But I need to talk to you in person." We met at a coffee shop on the edge of town, far from anywhere my family might go. Riley arrived in 10 minutes, her face full of concern. "What's going on? You sounded weird on the phone." I pulled her to a corner table where nobody could hear us. "You have to promise not to tell anyone what I'm about to show you." "Okay, you're scaring me. What is it?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures. Riley's eyes went wide. "What the? Is that gold? Real gold?" "Yes, it was in the shed my dad left me. Riley, it's worth over $4 million. Riley grabbed my phone, zooming in on the pictures. Her mouth hung open. Oh my God, Sarah, this is insane. Your dad was like a secret millionaire?" "I don't know. I don't understand any of it, but I need help. I need to figure out how to handle this without my family finding out." Riley nodded, her brain clearly working fast. Okay. First, you need a lawyer, a good one, someone who specializes in estates and assets. And you need to get that gold appraised properly. What if it's stolen? What if Dad got it illegally? Then we deal with that when we know for sure. But right now, you need to protect yourself and that gold. If your brother finds out, he'll take it, I finished. I know. Riley grabbed my hands. We're gonna figure this out. Together. But Sarah, this changes everything. You're not the girl who got nothing anymore. You're a millionaire. Hearing her say it out loud made it real. I was a millionaire. Me, Sarah Mitchell, who'd worked 2 jobs through college and lived in a tiny apartment. I started laughing again, and this time Riley joined in. For the first time since Dad died, I felt hope. Real hope. Riley helped me find a lawyer named David Chen. He was young, smart, and specialized in inheritance disputes. Perfect. I met him at his office 2 days later. It was modern and clean, nothing like Mr. Peterson's old-fashioned place. "Miss Mitchell," David said, shaking my hand, "Riley told me you have an unusual situation." "That's putting it lightly," I said. I showed him everything. The will, Dad's letter, the pictures of the gold. David's face stayed calm, but I could see the shock in his eyes. "This is significant," he said carefully, "but we need to verify a few things first. We need to confirm the gold is legally yours and not part of the estate that should have been divided differently." "What do you mean?" "Your father left you the property. Everything on that property is yours. But if your brother challenges this, we need to be ready. The will clearly states you inherited that land and everything on it." "But he might argue your father hid assets." My stomach twisted. "Can he take it from me?" "Not if we do this right," David said firmly. "The will is clear. The property is yours, but we need to move fast, get the gold appraised, document everything. And most importantly, don't tell your family yet." I nodded. I wasn't planning to. "Good. I'll draft the paperwork to officially claim the assets. In the meantime, I suggest you move the gold to a secure location, a bank vault maybe." Over the next week, David helped me arrange everything. We hired a private appraiser who confirmed the gold was real and worth $4.5 million. We moved it to a vault at a private bank in Denver, and we kept it completely secret. But the surprises didn't stop there. David did a property search on Mountain Ridge Road. What he found made my jaw drop. "Sarah, did you know there's a new highway being built near your property?" he asked during one of our meetings. "What? No. What highway?" "The state approved it 6 months ago. It's going to connect Denver to the mountain resorts. And your property? It's right on the proposed route." "What does that mean?" David smiled. "It means your land is about to become very valuable. Developers will want it. Gas stations, hotels, restaurants. You're sitting on prime real estate." I stared at him. "How valuable?" "Conservatively, $2 million. Maybe more if you negotiate well." I couldn't believe it. First the gold. Now this. Dad hadn't just left me a shed. He'd left me an empire. "So that worthless land Marcus laughed at is worth millions?" I asked, a smile spreading across my face. "Exactly," David said. "Your father knew. That's why he left it to you." I tried to keep it quiet, but somehow Marcus found out about the highway. Maybe he saw it in the news. Maybe one of his business contacts told him. I don't know. But 2 weeks after I found the gold, he showed up at my apartment in Austin. I heard pounding on my door, angry, loud pounding. I looked through the peephole. "Marcus." "Open the door, Sarah. I know you're in there." My heart raced. I opened the door, keeping the chain lock on. "What do you want, Marcus?" His face was red, his eyes blazing. "Why didn't you tell me about the highway? That land Dad left you is worth millions now." "So?" I said coolly. "It's my land. Dad left it to me." "You don't deserve it. You need to sell it and split the money with the family." I almost laughed. "Split it? Like you split the mansion with me? Like you split the business? No thanks." Marcus slammed his hand against the door. "That land should be mine. Dad didn't know about the highway when he wrote the will." "Too bad," I said. "It's legally mine. Dad wanted me to have it." "You ungrateful little—" "You need to leave, Marcus, now, or I'm calling the police." He stared at me through the crack in the door, breathing hard. "This isn't over," he said. "I'm getting a lawyer." "Good luck with that," I said, and shut the door in his face. My hands were shaking, but I felt strong, powerful. For the first time in my life, I wasn't backing down from my brother. Marcus did get a lawyer. 3 days later, David called me. "Your brother filed a claim against the estate. He's arguing that your father didn't know the true value of the property and that it should be divided equally among all heirs. Can he do that? He can try, but he won't win. The will is ironclad. Your father left you that property specifically. Everything on it belongs to you. What if he finds out about the gold? David was quiet for a moment. He can't prove anything unless you tell him, and legally, even if he knew, it doesn't matter. The will says the property and everything on it is yours. That includes anything found on the property. So we're safe? Yes, but be prepared. This might get ugly. He was right. Marcus started calling Mom, Jessica, even distant relatives, trying to turn everyone against me. He told them I was greedy, that I was stealing from the family, that I'd manipulated Dad somehow. Mom called me, her voice cold. "Sarah, why are you doing this? Why can't you just share? We're family." Where was that family when I got laughed at during the will reading, Mom? Where was that family when Jessica made fun of me? I'm keeping what Dad left me. If you have a problem with that, talk to your lawyer. She hung up. It hurt, but I was done being the doormat. The only family member who supported me was Grandma Rose, Dad's mother. She was 82 years old, sharp as a knife, and didn't take nonsense from anyone. She showed up at my apartment one afternoon with a box of old photos and a determined look on her face. "I need to tell you something about your father," she said, settling into my couch. "What is it, Grandma?" She pulled out an old photo. It showed Dad as a young man standing next to a mine entrance. "Your father was a gold miner before you were born," she said. "He worked in Colorado for years. He found a rich vein once, made a small fortune. But he didn't trust banks, so he kept the gold himself, hid it." My mouth fell open. "He was a miner?" "Yes, and he always planned to leave that gold to you, not Marcus, you." "Why me?" Grandma smiled sadly. "Because Marcus is like your mother's side of the family, greedy, always wanting more. But you, Sarah, you're like your father, strong, independent. You don't need anyone to save you. He knew you'd use that gold wisely." Tears filled my eyes. "I miss him, Grandma." "I know, baby, but he's still watching over you, and he's proud." She handed me a letter. Another one from Dad, this one addressed to her. "He gave me this before he died," she said. "Told me to give it to you if Marcus ever caused trouble." I opened it with shaking hands. "Sarah, if you're reading this, it means your brother is being difficult. Don't let him bully you. That gold is yours. I earned it with my own hands, and I want you to have it. Build the life you've always dreamed of. You deserve it. Love, Dad." I hugged Grandma Rose and cried. Marcus's lawsuit went nowhere. The judge threw it out in less than 10 minutes. But Marcus didn't give up. He showed up at Grandma Rose's house one day when I was visiting. Jessica was with him, her face twisted with anger. "You can't hide forever, Sarah," Marcus yelled from the front yard. I walked outside. Grandma Rose stood beside me, her tiny frame full of fire. "What do you want, Marcus?" I asked calmly. "I want what's fair. That land is worth millions and you're keeping it all." "Dad left it to me. It's mine. Get over it." Jessica stepped forward. "You're so selfish. We gave you a place at family dinners. We included you. And this is how you repay us?" I actually laughed. "Included me? You laughed at my inheritance. You made fun of me. And now that it's worth something, you want a piece? No. You had your chance to be kind. You chose to be cruel instead." Marcus's face turned purple. "I'm your brother." "You were never my brother," I said quietly. "A real brother wouldn't have laughed at me. A real brother would have asked if I was okay. But you just took and never gave anything back." "You're going to regret this," Marcus hissed. "No," I said firmly. "I really won't." Grandma Rose stepped forward. "Get off my property, both of you, or I'm calling the police." Marcus and Jessica left, and I never heard from them again. 6 months later, I sold the land to a development company for $2.3 million. Combined with the gold, I had nearly $7 million. I quit my job and started my own marketing firm. I bought a beautiful house in Austin with a big backyard and an oak tree that reminded me of Dad. I hired Riley as my business partner. Together, we built a company that's now worth over $1 million on its own. I set up a scholarship fund in Dad's name for kids who want to study geology and mining, and I never spoke to Marcus again. Mom tried to reach out a few times, but I kept my distance. Some wounds don't heal, and I was okay with that. I kept the shed. Even after I sold the land, I made sure the contract let me keep that little piece of property. I fixed it up. New roof, new paint, new door. It's my retreat now, my quiet place where I go to think and remember Dad. Inside, I put up the photo of Dad by the mine. I hung his letter on the wall, and I keep a single gold bar in a locked case as a reminder of where I came from and how far I've come. Sometimes I sit there and imagine what Dad would think of my life now. I think he'd be proud. I think he'd smile and say, "I knew you could do it, Sarah." Looking back, that inheritance taught me everything I needed to know about worth. Society measures worth in money, in houses, and things you can touch and show off. My brother got the mansion, he got the recognition, he got the applause. But I got something more valuable. I got a father's love, his trust, his belief that I was strong enough to handle whatever came my way. That shed wasn't worthless. It was a test and a gift. The gold was amazing, yes, but the real treasure was knowing that Dad saw me, really saw me. When everyone else was looking at Marcus, Dad was watching me build my life with my own hands. And he wanted to give me the foundation to build something even bigger. I learned that true wealth isn't about what you're given, it's about what you do with it. Marcus got millions and squandered it on bad investments and a lifestyle he couldn't maintain. The mansion is in foreclosure now. The business failed. But I took what Dad left me and built an empire. Not because I'm better than Marcus, but because I respected the gift. I honored Dad's trust. So let me ask you this. What would you do if you discovered a hidden fortune? Would you flaunt it? Would you share it with people who laughed at you? Or would you use it to build the life you've always dreamed of? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button, because sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the places everyone else overlooks. And remember, your worth isn't determined by what others give you, it's determined by what you build with your own hands. Real treasure isn't found in mansions or gold bars. It's found in the courage to stand up for yourself and the wisdom to use your gifts well.